last.
No. Oh, I'm the only one live.
Give it a second.
There it is. Everyone's here.
Hail, hail. The gang's all here.
Hey everyone, what's going on?
Hello.
43 Homes here, and we've got a special guest at the end of the table today. Amy from World Class Title.
The Honorable Amy Long.
Oh wow, that sounds official. So today's topic is
getting to the closing table.
Getting to the closing table, and what happens? How do you get there? Who's managing all that? The buzzword, title. What is title? Amy, fill us in.
Well, a lot of pressure.
No pressure.
Yeah, I know, right? So in the state of Ohio, we have to provide, the seller has to provide the buyer with proof that the land is free and clear of any judgments or liens, and we do this through title insurance. So that's what my company does. We do a title search to go back at least 42 years to make sure that that land has been properly deeded to the next person, and that there are no liens or judgments, encumbrances, anything like that that shouldn't be on the property. You want to pass it with clean title.
A lot of folks who I talk to think that if there are liens and judgments, they don't need to worry about it, that just goes with the old homeowner, and that it's their responsibility.
Right, that is not true. So, it's not like a car. When you buy a car and you have a lien that stays with the person, but with a title on a home, it definitely goes with that property. So you want to make sure that it's clear before you sell it.
So no pressure, Amy, but Kelly.
Oh, wow.
Kelly's on watching. Hi, Kelly.
That's my boss.
You'll get text messages if you get things wrong.
And Kelly, we don't want you to be confused, because Steve and Dial thought this meant that we could see him and he waved. But
But we can see you, just not him. We ignore him.
Yeah.
So what are some of the common things, so obviously getting to the, it's kind of like getting to the church on time, it's like, so what are some of the things that you see in title that would cause someone to maybe not get to the closing table on time?
Oh, good question. Obviously, if they do have a lien on their property, it needs to be paid.
What are some common liens? Like what kind of liens?
Maybe you can explain what a lien is.
Oh,
I would
yes.
imagine there's probably people that aren't familiar with that term. And
You're down and dirty, okay.
Yeah, well, why not? That's what we do here.
Yeah. I've only had this much wine. A lien is a collection that is put on your property. So say an IRS lien for not paying your taxes.
Oops.
Very common lien.
Yeah.
So they will say you cannot sell this property unless these items are paid off. We are leaning against the value of your home. So that's what we make sure. We run not only the property, but your name through a system. So somebody couldn't even buy a property even with cash if they...
So you mean if I haven't paid my property taxes the past couple of years, that's a bad thing?
Yeah, that is a bad thing.
What about HOA fees?
Yeah, HOA fees.
COA fees?
Condo association, HOA fees. A mechanics lien, which kind of more means that somebody did work on your property, you didn't pay them for that work. So they would put a lien on your property. So yeah, anything that would prevent you from selling that home has to be cleared off before you finish your sale.
So what do we do to prevent that? Like how do we,
Pay
I'm
bills.
buying a house.
Pay your bills.
So but I'm a buyer.
Yes.
And I'm looking at a house, and I put my offer in and my offer gets accepted. So how do I as the buyer know, and how do I become protected against this?
So I'm just going to, for all my references, I'm going to use a standard Columbus Board of Realtors contract.
Okay.
Just to keep it simple, because that's what we more often than not use. So the seller chooses the title company. The seller and his agent usually choose the title company. And in that standard Columbus Board of Realtors contract, it states in there that we have to provide them with a loan or a title commitment within so many days. It's usually, I believe, around 20. You guys usually write that in. So then that starts the process. The agents will be given the title commitment, and they'll be able to see, are the taxes paid? Are there any liens? Are there any encumbrances on the property, encroachments on the property? That's when perfect example of that, we get this all the time, is in German Village, where all the roofs are very, very close together, and part of the roof is on the other part of the person's property. It's an encroachment. So we look at that title commitment, you know, obviously you go over that with your buyers and your sellers and say, is this something that we can move forward on? Most of the time, you're going to have a payoff, which is your first mortgage, whoever the seller had their mortgage with. So you're going to pay that off. And in the title commitment, it also talks about taxes. We have to bring taxes current. Our taxes here in Franklin County are paid 6 months arrears. So the tax bill is always for the second or the first half. So we have to make sure that those are brought current. So anything else that comes up on that title commitment, then we have that conversation then. You know, how can we clear it up and go forward?
What if I broke up with my spouse 6 months ago, we don't talk to each other, I don't know where they are, and I'm selling the house? Is that going to be a problem? Not that I have, or I am going to, but
Joel, are you out there?
Something you want to tell us? Yeah, so we get this a lot. So the state of Ohio is a dower state, meaning that one spouse can't buy or sell a property without the written consent of the other spouse. So if you get a divorce and prior to closing, and if it wasn't taken care of in a quitclaim deed, which is a whole other conversation, with your divorce decree, obviously we have to go by what the divorce decree says, then before you close, we have to find your, rambling spouse and have them sign off on their dower rights, meaning sign off on the deed and like one other statement.
So that's oftentimes something people don't know at closing. You have to have your spouse at the closing table with you, or at least your ex.
Power of attorney.
Power of attorney, something that is sometimes
they do not
a
have
surprise.
to come at the same time though.
No. Yeah.
It's
Or
sometimes
separate rooms,
preferable.
or whatever. But that's always an interesting fact that a lot of people don't know about the state of Ohio.
Correct.
So
not all states are dower states, and we get that a lot when people are moving in from other states. They're like, "Why does my spouse have to be here?"
Right.
And it's because of Ohio law.
Yeah, and even when you're buying a property on your own, so sometimes one might be buying an investment property all on their own. It's their own income, whatever it might be, but your partner, spouse does need to be there.
So what about properties that were purchased prior to marriage? And that spouse that owns it free and clear, or not free and clear, but without the other spouse, what is the situation there?
You still, that spouse, now new spouse, does have to show up. Yeah, so it is whatever your marital status is at the time of the closing.
Okay.
Regardless
Or if
of
it wasn't taken care of through the...
So regardless of who the legal owner is, they both have to be there.
Correct, yeah. And that happens a lot. People are like, well, I bought this house way before... I was like, what is that? I bought this house way before when I was single, and now I'm married and I'm selling. That spouse now has to sign before they can sell. Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah, it is.
I mean,
That is actually,
They
that's
say
probably one of
It
the
is really good to know, actually.
I've worked with quite a few investors, and that question has come up
yes.
before. And I think it's especially so. Like a lot of times, you'll see like combined households these days. Like where either they owned property, both owned property, or one owned property. They lived in prior to being married, and then they combine their households, and then they wonder what to do with that situation. So good. So okay.
I know title insurance.
Well, yeah, it's kind of, because I kind of had a question. Okay, so going back to the title commitment, I mean, I wanted to say something or ask a question regarding that, because what I had been told was that that's basically a list of instructions for the seller, that in order to sell the house, this list of instructions needs to be done in order for everything to happen. So the title commitment usually comes at the very beginning of the process. So do you talk to there's a buy side and a sell side. Are you talking to buyers and sellers prior to that coming out? Like, when do you make contact with people? When do you start getting involved with that and calling or emailing or whatever?
The seller, more or quickly in the process than the buyer, because when we do get that title commitment, if there is an issue, then we can talk to them about, getting the payoff. So, say for instance, if you have an IRS tax lien, we need you to sign an authorization form that we can ask on your behalf. The state of Ohio, how much you owe for taxes, what would be that payoff amount, and is that going to work within, the deal? Like if you only owe $5,000 and you're getting $60,000 in proceeds, we can make that happen.
Right.
But if it's a part or where you have to come to the table
Yeah.
with money, then we need
It's a
to
whole
start
other-
talking to the seller.
So they have it.
Yeah.
So when I have buyers and you forward the title commitment to us, what should the buyers do with that? I mean, I know, read it over, review it, see what there is
Yeah.
involved with it, but after that, I mean, do they just delete that email? Do they keep that for the records? What do they do? What should they do?
Well, I mean, the things that, if there's anything glaring, then obviously you want to hold on to it because you want to make sure those things were taken care of. Things as, having the payoff taken care of and the taxes, those super standard things. But if there is an easement recording or, some of these other things are going to pop up with your lender if it is an encumbrance on your property. With, like I said, the example was the roof lines.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to insure through it. That's a whole other conversation. But we work at that point, then we start talking to the buyer and the lender because we want to make sure that the lender is satisfied with our insurance policy, and we do that through endorsements. So an example of an endorsement would be a condo endorsement. So that's just like a little bit of extra insurance that we put because they have a condo association.
So for instance, so I had a commercial deal a year ago, a little over a year ago, and in the title search, it came up that there was an easement for what used to be an alley, but it was two buildings that were combined, and they were combined over top of the alley. So they were actually all lawyers. The people who had bought the building previously were attorneys, and they had a legal opinion written about the issue. However, the title company was excluding that from their insurance on the title insurance.
Yeah, so if any issue came up with that, then
they weren't
would
going to
not
cover
insure.
it.
Correct.
So, but what are the risks? When those kinds of things come up. I mean, because I don't think the general person understands necessarily.
Right.
So what are the risks?
And I think too, there are sections of Columbus where there are easements and things grandfathered in. I had a transaction in Upper Arlington where there was a shed or a garage or something. So yeah, I mean there's these things can come up. So
every scenario
is different.
Comes with their own risk. I happen to know what you're talking about the alleyways there. If it's a 100% not used, they built the other house, property line up above you, and at one time there was probably an alleyway, and now they're all fences, then, is anything going to happen? Probably not, but,
the title company has to.
We have to
hedge their
notify
risk.
you.
Right.
Absolutely. And there's some things that we just can't insure.
Right.
Well, you did one for one of my clients over in Westgate where the front half of the house, someone had built a picture of a window, and it was in the city's right of way.
Yeah.
So they had to know that at some point in time the city could, they probably wouldn't, but the city could come in and tell them that they need to take it out because they're going to take that space.
Yeah, and there's always that risk, and the same like with easements for utility easements. I always tell people, if the utility company has to come back here and tear up your lawn in order to gain access to their utility equipment, they can do so, and they might tear up your prize-winning rose bushes, and they don't have to put them back. They just have to, put the ground. So there's always that's a low risk versus taking out the front of your house. I think as long as you go into it with just using common sense, and talk about what percentage of risk.
Well, and you were talking about, we talked about title, but you also said title insurance. So what is this insurance policy that they're getting? What are they being insured against?
And who pays for it?
So again, in the state of Ohio, well, actually in Franklin County and the surrounding counties, the seller pays for the title insurance. So if there was, obviously we do our title search, like I said, 42 years plus, to make sure that it was properly executed through the channels. But if it wasn't, then we insure at our cost to make sure that that is corrected. And, if a lien came up on the property that, we didn't see, instead of them going after the property owner, that would be something that we would take care of as well. Just protects them, that we're stating that the property is free and clear of any encumbrances.
So really not something that you should ever try and just skip over to save yourself a couple bucks in this process.
The cost is
Well, and you
minimal
can't,
compared.
Right.
Well, I was just gonna ask, can you even skip over any of these?
I guess if the buyer consents to you
Yeah.
not providing a title policy to save $1,000 and you reduce the price,
Well,
but
cash.
I can't imagine.
Cash. Yes. A lender is not gonna allow you to buy a title of
Right.
property.
Without, okay.
Yeah,
Well-
because you have to
Well, that's
remember,
good to know,
they're
sure.
insuring their,
Mhm.
There.
it's technically not
Yeah.
your property,
Mhm.
so those under those 30 years.
Right.
So yeah, they're wanting to protect it. So yeah, you could buy a property without title insurance, but
And are there instances where the buyer would have some sort of payment in that?
it depends on if the lender requires endorsements.
Yes.
So, like, for example, the condo association endorsement, a survey endorsement, extra coverages that would be added on to. So the seller just pays for the owner's title insurance policy, and then there is a very small fee, I believe it's $100, probably Kelly could tell you, that add on the lender endorsement, and then each of the different endorsements, just depending on what kind of property is, there's minimal cost for that. I'd say all under like $150 to like $50.
So what are some of the common things that you see that, from the title side that's going to delay closing? Because I think, we get caught up all the time and,
Yeah.
everybody's got dates. People are scheduling movers and they're
Mm-hmm.
scheduling, utilities or, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then they find out, closing's not gonna happen for another week.
So, there's a lot of stuff that comes up on the lending side, obviously, but on the title side, what
Yeah,
are some of the things that can
The
cause?
number one thing that a buyer and seller should do is give us all the information in a very timely fashion. So the seller, we reach out to them, like I said, first, and we need to get the payoff information. So email us back with that. We do, I'd say, majority of things, unless it needs to be notarized. We do everything through right signature, so you can sign online, sign with your finger on a phone, and we make it super, super easy. But we have to get that payoff information. Requires them to give us their account number, last four digits of their social security number, and then they have to sign off the authorization form so we can work on their behalf. And sometimes we wait around for those authorization forms, and that delays it because not every bank has automatic payoff information.
Mhm.
So, it might, especially as more rural banks, they could take, 3-4 days to get that information. Or if it's an IRS lien, that, it's IRS, it takes a really long time. So on that side, the buyer side of things, the buyer's information we get from the lender. So the
Okay.
lender sends us the closing instructions. We do what we call a CD, which is a closing disclosure. Now our new process, I guess it's been going for a year now, is to send that CD disclosure to the buyer 3 days prior to the closing date.
Right.
So that's thankfully kind of alleviating some of that last minute scramble.
Right.
Well, that leads into a good question. So, say I'm a seller. There's two sides to this, obviously. So, say I'm the seller. How do I know how much money I'm going to get back when this thing?
Such a good question. Yeah. So you being an awesome realtor, you can go on and we have a net to seller sheet that you can do, I can do. We even have somebody in the office that always gives them the roundabout number, and then once we get that title commitment back, we can plug in more realistic numbers.
Okay.
Usually by that point, if we have the payoff information and the taxes, then we have a very good idea. And right before closing, we re-verify everything.
Mhm.
We check their water and their sewer, because that can, delinquencies, that goes with the property. None of the utilities do. So if you don't pay your electric, or those do go with the person and not the property. And then we obviously will make sure that there's no tax delinquencies out there. We also call for future assessments. Sometimes there's sewer assessments, streetlight assessments, anything that, because we're paid 6 months arrears, we gotta make sure that everything's brought current, and then we get your payoff. So yeah, we have a pretty good idea right around the same time that the buyer is getting that 3-day disclosure, what your number is going to be as well, as long as we have that information.
And how does the buyer know how much money they got to bring?
Through the lender. So the lender gives us the closing instructions, and it's nice because we have kind of a checks and balance system. We make sure that our CD matches theirs, even though we always use the lender's CD, the closing disclosure. And once those numbers are good, then the lender will call the buyer and go over all that information with them. So it isn't like the first time that they're seeing, you know, back in the old days, that's how it was. So they have an idea. And now we're really pushing for wires, for the buyer to actually wire the funds.
I heard that's going to be a legal change.
Yeah, State of Ohio law, April 1st, and it can't be more than $1,000 aggregate between the buyer and the seller.
But how do I know when I'm wiring you money, I'm actually wiring it to you?
Great question. Yeah, we actually use a 2-step verification system. We're really big into that security. We're gonna send you our wiring instructions. Then we're going to call you. We're also gonna verify with your bank. So yeah, we double, triple that.
World Class Title does that.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, because there are a lot of title companies, so
Right.
you know everyone has a
I mean,
different
not
process. But
any better.
no.
Good say.
No way. I'm just saying that you know what some of the in regards to that, not everyone's going to do that. So that's definitely something that you want to be aware of because different companies are going to have different processes. And as Amy said previously, typically it's the seller that's going to pick who the title company is going to be. And so there had been, and it's still going on, a period of time where there was a scam going that people were getting funds requested. Right? I mean, how did that work? I don't even remember.
There's been some instances in
wire fraud
yeah.
is what it was.
And once you wire the money, it's gone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's something to be careful of because they were getting emails that looked, buyers were getting emails that looked legitimately from the title company.
And we've
Right.
talked about how, how to mitigate that risk, and I think, and someone chime in here, I think the number one thing when you get an email asking you to wire money is, look at the email address. Get into your email program and see who's sending you that email.
Yeah.
And if there is any doubt or any question, pick up the phone, call your title company, call your realtor,
agent.
Right?
and
Call
because
somebody, because
Yeah.
the Prince of Arabia is not legit.
no,
Well, this
I've won the
He doesn't
lottery
work for the
15
title
times and I haven't
company.
seen the money
Yeah,
once.
and what they're doing is they're tapping into like your email. They're making it kind of look like it'll say Wayne, at a different thing, some variation of 43 homes.
Right.
So that's why we just double check everything.
Right, yeah.
Yes, we're going to send you our wiring instructions. We're also going to call you. We're going to go over that, with you. You're going to deal with the same person at our company. And all of our emails, we go through a 2-step verification. That's crucial. Not everybody is doing that 2-step verification on your emails, and people need to be doing it.
So, so we've done all this, we're getting ready to close, everybody's happy, so we just show up, bring our money in a pen?
Now we give you the best pens out.
What do they need to bring with them
Other
the
than
day
the
of
blood
closing?
sample?
Yes.
And do you
The
talk
banks
to
already
them
collected
prior?
the-
How often, I suppose, I guess looking at it from the buyer side and then looking at it from the seller side, when are you talking to them, when are you telling them we need to schedule, there's...
Well, more often than not, the realtors are going to call us and tell us when they want to schedule.
Okay.
Just because you've talked to your client, when what their
Sure.
availability is, and we see a lot of our what we call seller pre-sign. So the seller will sign separately from the buyer just because of scheduling purposes, or you can do a round table. Everybody can be around the closing table at the same time. Some people like to do that, especially if they've lived in a house for a really long time and they want to tell them all the fun stuff of their house. So yeah, say round table. Everybody's going to show up to closing. I will give you pins. And
Do you guys have readers too? I've seen that at some title commitments.
You can borrow my readers. Plenty of glasses. I've been doing closings for 16 years, so I'm pretty well versed in that. And we have a great staff of closers. So people that will really go over everything and talk it through with you. We have some people that need lots of extra time and want to read over every single document, and we think that's great, and we can always email them the documents prior to closing, as long as we have them from the lender.
Yes, was going to point that out, because it is your right, and you should be reading what it is you're signing. The phrase "signing your life away" for that.
Yeah, exactly.
So you should know what it is you're signing.
Yeah.
If that is you, if you want to be reading everything, then definitely let your agent know, or let the title person that you may be talking to know, and you can get that paperwork ahead of time. So sorry.
Yeah, we actually just had one on Friday. He just wanted that extra time, so we sent him the documents, and again, as long as we have those documents from the lender, because there's two sets of documents that you're signing. One is our title documents, just to go over everything in regards to like the title insurance, and then you're signing the lender documents, so just the bigger stack of the two. We actually do all of our title documents on the iPad, so it's just a series of initials that we go through. And just make sure that we're highlighting the parts of the title insurance process, and then you sign the lender document. So yeah, when you come in, you just make sure you have your driver's license, and it must be valid, because last year I sent 2 people to the DMV to go get their valid driver's license. Yeah, I cannot let you sign unless you have a valid driver's license. Now, you can also bring a passport or a military ID.
State ID.
Or state ID for a non-driver.
So what about international buyers or sellers? Are there any special circumstances if someone is a naturalized citizen or is on a green card?
Every bank is different. There is 2 banks that I can think off the top of my head that have me ask a series of questions in regards to, like, are you a senior political figure in another country, and so I just go by what is involved in the lender instructions.
So the lender will give you specific
and they'll know before closing if there's more requirement. The other thing is that usually people who aren't citizens have to bring 2 forms of ID. So bringing, like, your second form of ID could be your social security card, or if you did your driver's license and then a passport. So.
What about a borrower or a buyer or seller, even for that matter, where English is their first language? What should they be doing, or what sort of services can be provided to them?
I do know a couple of people that can translate. More often than not, just for their comfort level, they usually have a friend or a family member that can come and sit next to me, and I've done that many, many times. So we don't ever let language be a barrier, we can definitely accommodate. So yeah, once they come in and show me their driver's license, we go over their title documents first. They do those on the iPad, and then the seller is done after the title insurance documents. Unless it's an FHA loan, there's nothing that they have to sign for the buyer's side. So either at that point they can leave, or they can hang out. Most of the time they want to hang out, because again, they want to talk about where the tulips are. You'd be surprised. So then I go over the rest of the documents with the buyer. It usually takes about 40-45 minutes. I always get the question, how long is this going to take? And I said, how fast can you sign?
I was going to actually ask that.
Yeah. Sorry.
So here at 43 Homes, we're actually, so everybody is, let's be honest, you get through the whole home buying process or selling, and it's a little exhausting because it can take 4 to 6 weeks. And so, while that's not, in the grand scheme of things, a long period of time, when you're going through this, sometimes it just seems like it's never going to get there. So here at 43 Homes, we're going to get a streamer system involved in our conference room, so you feel like, oh, we did it.
Like a big balloon drop sort of experience.
Balloon drop.
Okay.
Confetti guns.
Balloon drop.
Yes. And we will have wine.
And just a reminder.
Not just on Wednesdays.
Just a reminder, keep sending us your questions. we're peppering some of those in here so that you can be entered in for the drawing for this week's fabulous prize.
Well, I was going to bring that up because we didn't mention it at the beginning.
We should have,
and we didn't. And so now, who knows who's watching at this point? But if you ask a question, we've got a really, really fun drawing for the winner to be announced next week. But yeah, so are we there yet?
So let's do this. So I think we've kind of, I think we've kind of wrapped our heads around the most common things that will come up. So let's, so if you have watched, let's say you've got until 2:59 next Wednesday to ask a question.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Any questions received prior to next Wednesday.
Okay.
We'll get you entered into the drawing.
Okay.
And our drawing this week is a bottle of wine from this week's sponsor, Signature Wines, which is a local winery, and they are on the Columbus's east side near Whitehall or Bexley. So they do bottles of wine. They have a tasting room, and then a event facility where you can go host an event for up to, I believe, 125 or so people.
It's a beautiful location.
Yeah, working wineries. So it's kind of really interesting because sometimes, I mean, there's a lot to know about making wine. That
And I mean,
besides
what more
just drinking
intriguing
it.
could we learn about?
So they can explain it all, and we met there last night, and got some wine, and they had a discussion about some stuff that we will maybe announce next week.
Yes.
A little something up our sleeve.
So we may be somewhere else.
Next
soon.
week.
You'll have to tune in and find out. So
You won't know unless you want.
that's right. So anyways,
We also skipped the announcement of who won last week's drawing. So, for the Winans gift card, which I'm not sure
It's
where
right
it is,
on
it's
my
over there
desk,
on the desk. And we can mail it to you, so you don't have to, I mean, you can come pick it up, of course.
we do have a chocolate bar that I probably can't mail the chocolate bar.
It might melt. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it's cold now, but we could drop it off too. I mean, you let us know. But the winner, we drew it just prior.
Amy drew it for us.
it, and it's
And we
legit.
certified
had
it
all
through
the names.
Pricewaterhouse.
Yeah. So, the winner is Sasha!
Sasha! Woo! Good job, Sasha.
So yeah, you get the Winans gift card, which Winans is, there's a couple locations, isn't there? But it
There's
happens
one now,
to
and
be
they're
like,
opening a new one.
Yeah. They've got great coffee, chocolates, and
Delicious chocolate.
yeah, we get coffee from there all the time.
They have these caramel covered chocolate with salt on the top. It's like a salted.
They're amazing.
I'd offer you these guys some, but I ate them.
Well, that's not true. There's actually a bucket.
No, I ate all the salted caramel.
Oh.
ones.
Would you like?
Eating chocolate on camera.
Oh,
But,
that might be fun.
But Amy, do you have anything that you feel like we've left out, or that you'd like to add about,
Or how do they call you?
or how do they get a hold of you and everyone at World Class Title?
WorldClassTitle.com.
That's weird.
And you guys are very active on social media.
Yeah, we are. And that's another thing that we do for our agents. Not only are we, of course, our main focus is title insurance, but any title insurance company that survived 2008 obviously does a really good job with their service level. So we've taken it another step and just really focused in on trying to help our realtors with marketing, social media, branding yourself, just trying to become a partner with helping you, do a great job to get in front of your clients. So I guess the biggest takeaway from this is don't be scared and ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
We have such a great staff, or you can call myself, or talk to your realtors. I think people kind of hear horror stories, maybe their mom and dad who bought a house 25 years ago. Hi, Dad. He's not here. That they just hear these horror stories, and it's not a big scary process. You just surround yourself with people you completely trust. Go with your gut. Ask questions. If you're not getting answers, then maybe you should think about dealing with some other people who are going to answer your questions. But actually,
that won't happen.
yeah. But at the actual closing process, because I have been doing it for so long and I love it. I love doing closings. because I think it's an amazing experience, especially for
The
first time buyers.
celebratory part of it.
Yeah, it's like I get to help you with the largest investment you will ever make in your lifetime, and most of the time it's their first time or home buyers, and I love that. I love being able to explain the process and just go over the documents with them. But again, it takes about 40 minutes for the buyer, so it's not that bad at all.
I think too, there's aspects of the home buying process, and actually, quite frankly, the home selling process, if you've never done it before, that seem to be a little mysterious. And that's why we wanted to have you on here, because they, sellers and buyers through the process are talking to the title people, and it's just, what do I do with this? Why do they want this? There's questions that we're always asked that, there's all these under the scene type stuff. It's more than just finding the house, writing a contract, listing the house, taking the pictures, putting it on the MLS. There's all this stuff once you get into contract that happens. So.
Well, and that's why, everybody's like, why does this take so long?
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Well,
part of it.
there's it's a pretty substantial sum of money usually,
Right.
that's being transferred
Right.
for something
Yeah.
here. So, and everybody needs to be protected, whether it's the buyer, the seller, the lender, title company, the realtors, whoever it is.
Yeah.
We want to make sure all the things are in place, because you're making a huge commitment, and that is our job. And I think that's the best advice you could have given, is that I think a lot of people go into this process thinking you've got to know every last thing. You don't need to know every last thing. You need to know people who know every last thing, and you need to connect yourself well with those people.
For sure.
So realtor, lender, title company, inspector, insurance, all of those things are, literally like fingers on a hand. They all have a job, and you can't operate one without the other. So we want to thank Amy for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, this is Amy Long with World Class Title, worldclasstitle.com.
Yes.
And you can also find them by searching World Class Title on all your social media, I'm sure. So.
Yes.
You're big
We
into
love
that.
Facebook.
As do we.
Yeah.
Yes.
So.
Well, thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
We'll see you again next week with special location, special.
And don't forget to ask your questions.
Yeah, so be sure to ask after the fact is perfect. So.
All right, thank
See
you.
ya.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. You gonna end this for us?
I'm ending it.
It's over.